Good morning or good afternoon or good evening. This is Coastal Living down under Australia, and this is a video that has come by viewers and subscribers asking questions about some of the videos that we've produced. So I'm first going to answer some questions in relation to the waxes and the jars and the wicks for our candles. Our first question was, what wick type do you pair with what candle? And the general rule is, as you can see here, I've got a number of different candles and I've used different and sometimes the same wicks. This little tea light, I've used the standard wick, which is over here, which has a pre-stamped stand on it, and it's already coated in wax as well. These are probably the ones I use the most. And the general rule you can see here is, if it's a candle that's no more than a circumference of about 15 centimeters, then these are the ones that you would use. If you've got something that's a much larger, like this one here, I've gone for a different wick. You could have used these same wicks, but you would probably have needed to put 3 and space them evenly across. The main thing is to consider the burn. So you need a wick that is wide enough that when the wick is lit and the wax is burning, that it's going to melt evenly down the side of the container. So these wide wicks, these wide wicks are brilliant. You can use them in both this size circumference as well as the double, and they just have a longer burn time. There's a slight little crackle as well, so you also get that auditory, the auditory sounds as well as the smells. So there's also that to consider as well. The other ones I've got here, this is quite a fine 4-ply wick. I use these when I'm doing ones like my little rose tea light. So if you've only got a very small and very petite type candle, this one's already set up for my next pour, but I can undo this, and basically it's very thin, you can see that, but the candle this size doesn't need to have a great big wick. Like for instance, if you were going to use a wick like this, the candle would melt in a few seconds, really 30 seconds, and a lot of it would be gone. So when buying the wick, that's what you need to consider, is how wide is my candle container or mold, and then sometimes it's a little trial and error. Like for instance, one of my first candles, I'll go and get it. I've been burning it, so it doesn't look that great. But one of my first candles that I made, which is this one here, it's just an old wine glass that I've used, and I've used one of these wider wicks. Okay, and it's burnt evenly down through the candle. You can see that it's melted off the sides evenly. There's really no one side that's had more melting than the other. In comparison, I've used a different wick in this one, and what you can see as an example of what not to do is I've used these round ones here, which they don't seem to work as well when they burn. They look great and they also crackle, but they don't seem to burn as well as these flat long ones. So I've used that in here, and as you can see, it hasn't burnt down on one side, only on this side. And I have placed it as close to the center as I possibly could. I think what's happened here is it's just that the wick was not wide enough, and I probably should have used a wide flat one, or I could have used something along this lines. Although, yeah, this probably would have been good. This is a medium square wick. That probably would have done a better job as well. So sometimes when you're making candles at home and you're doing it yourself, you just don't want to have to buy all these different wicks. It costs money, and really you just have to try different things, see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, well then try something that's a bit wider or a bit narrower the next time. So that's basically the wick side. There are other wicks that you can get, but as I don't want to have a huge variety. I just want to do the ones that I like. So the next question we'll move on to is the different waxes. So I only use 2 different waxes. I use a soy wax. I use a brand called Golden Brand. The different ones that I use a 416, which is this one here. This is the 416 that I use if I'm doing molds. The 416 is good for molds, or also for these little packs here that will melt in your burner. So the little packs that go into the oil burner type thing, the soy wax burners, it doesn't stick to the container, and that's what you want for those ones. You want to be able to break this into 6 pieces and just use a piece at a time. Same goes for this. You want to be able to peel it away from the sides and use something that's not going to stick. So that's why I use this one. And just beware when you buy these, they will all tell you what the melt temperature and the pour temperature is, and also what the fragrance load is. Now, the other question with these silicone molds is also about fragrance. So we'll go back to that after I explain. This is the Golden Wax 464. Looks much the same. The difference with this one is it also has an additive in it which adheres to the sides of the containers. So you will get it sticking to the sides of the containers better. So you wouldn't use this for a mold. Okay, now back to our fragrance loads. Sometimes I don't even use the candle wicks. And if you're using it in a bedroom, or you've got kids and you want to have the nice smell of the room, but you're worried that the kids might light the candle and burn the house down, well, there's always the option of not using the candle wick at all. That way, well, A, you don't have the expense of having to buy the wick, and B, you don't have to worry about the kids burning the house down. So you can also do things like this type of mold without the wick. Just don't put the wick in, and then you can load the fragrance up a bit to a higher degree for these type of ones, because once you peel it out of the container, the fragrance just fills the room. And I've had a few people comment when I've given them away as gifts and things like that, that although they haven't even lit them, they just leave them in the room and it just fills the room up. And we've got one in our toilet at the moment because there's nowhere in our bathroom to hang or put any, smelly things, or there's a tiny little windowsill that's about that wide, and we've got a little candle that's sitting there, and you walk past the toilet and just the smell comes out, and it's just amazing. This caramel fudge smell coming out of the bathroom is much better than any of the other smells, I can guarantee you that. So there's also that option. If that's what you're going for and you just want it for the smell, you're not wanting to burn anything, just don't even put the wick in. You can just have a really nice smelling candle, or a wax ball or a wax shape that does the same thing. Those are also good if you want to put them in your wardrobes, if you want to put them in a cupboard that might be a bit musty or has a bit of a smell. There's all sorts of ways and things you can use them for. So we've gone over that. Substitutes for people on a budget. I'm on a budget, my husband has me on a budget. So I can't spend a lot of money on buying all these things. So what have I done? I've had to adapt. I've had to forage around the house, forage around the beach, at the creek, all sorts of things. And I just wanted to share with you a few of the ideas that I've got. So if you've got any old teacups, or for instance, I've got the girls' baby cups here, perfect. You can put wax, pour wax into these, put a candle in, or don't put a candle in, whatever you want to do. You can use these. The kids don't use them anymore. Well, rather than throwing them in the trash or giving them away, they make great little candles. So there's that option. Same goes for teacups. I love teacups. Love them, love them, love, love, love them. But they're just not big enough. This would be 2 mouthfuls for me. So while they look beautiful and I like having them around, my next thing is I'm going to put a candle in them, and they just look amazing. The girls got little cups of tea. They don't use those anymore, but I'm going to do the same thing with them so that I can have them sitting around, and they just brighten up the decor. The other thing, Ellie and I went foraging at the beach, and we found all these little shells. Now, I don't know if you live near the beach, But if you do, or you've got a creek, or you've got anything where there's rocks or water running, then there's likely to be rocks that can carve out little channels into the rocks. So there's for instance, I've gone to the beach today and I found these beautiful big candles. Well, they're not candles yet, but in my next tutorial, I'm going to be doing little tea light candles using these. So they're going to be filled up and they'll have a little wick coming out of them and they'll be just beautiful sitting around. Now, I've also found this little abalone shell. Again, this one I probably can't do a candle because it's not deep enough, but even just some leftover wax poured in here, placed in a wardrobe with the beautiful fragrance coming out of it, that would be ideal. What else have we got over here? I've got some bigger tea light candles, which I'm going to do, so make sure you tune in for that. Now, even a broken candle, which I found here. Obviously, I'm going to clean the sand out, but this broken candle, if it sits properly, and I can pour wax in this one, and put a little candle here. I don't know if you can see that, actually. I might lift it up here. Pour wax in here, let that set with a wick in it, and then pour a bit more wax up the top here, and let that set. I probably won't burn it, but it will look amazing. So make sure you subscribe, and that way you won't miss out on that wonderful tutorial. Now, we've also found some decorations. So these little seashells, once I get all the sand and things off them, they'll be amazing little decorations to go with your candles once you've finished, once they've set a little bit. I found some little bits of seaweed, but it doesn't actually have any smell, so I brought that one home. And there's just some beautiful little shells. They're a little bit different to the shells that I found at Tathra, but they're just as beautiful. There's also some beautiful sand. I don't know if you can see the color in the sand here, but just a great variety of colors that you can sprinkle across the top of the candles. So that's just an example of a trip to the beach to keep the dogs and the kids happy. And look what we've come across. Didn't cost a cent. Now, the other thing with candles, you can also use your old glassware. Perfect. Or if you've got any food jars. Now, this jar here is coming up in another tutorial as well, where I'm going to fill it up with bath salts and flowers and things. And I've got a lavender video coming out today, how I've dried our own lavender in the garden. You can use your own garden plants. If you've got jasmine, lavender, anything that's got a beautiful scent, you can use it. So there's that. You can use your own little jars as well if you want to use that. There really is no limit. I've even got an anniversary gift here, which I haven't told my husband yet, but we used to have a plant in it. Here it is. It is beautiful. Used to have a plant in it, but of course I can't keep an indoor plant alive, as Pinay living down under knows, as she's given me plenty of plants over the years that I've killed. So I'm going to empty this out in another tutorial, and I'm going to fill it up with a candle, and that way it can just sit there and I don't have to worry about watering it. So really, if you've got any of these sort of things around the house, if they're a solid, non-combustible material that doesn't have any holes in it, so the candle wax can't melt through and ruin your furniture, you can use it. If you're not using it and you need to repurpose it, you can use it. I've even got this little abalone shell that the girls had decorated the other day with the paint. This one here, I can do the same thing. I can put it, obviously, I'd have to make sure that the candle wax doesn't come out these holes, but I can put a little bit of candle wax in here with a lot of fragrance load, and just stick it in the cupboard or in the bathroom on a shelf just for the smell and the fragrance. I've also got these little tubs here that you can just pick up at your local shop. I mean, I'm in Australia, so I go to Kmart or Big W and other places like that, but I'm sure that in your country, in your city, you've got a similar shop, $2 shop or a discount shop, where you can pick up little things like this for like 50 cents. Perfect for a citronella candle or something like that for outdoors, or even for indoors, or if you want to hang it out of reach of the kids. Obviously, you're not going to light it if it's hanging, but there's all these sorts of things. You've only got to look around your living room, your bathroom, your bedroom to find these things out. Okay, so thank you for watching. don't forget to subscribe. We've got some great tutorials coming up. We've got some great DIY on a budget tutorials. There's some hand, foot and facial scrubs that I'm going to do videos on, of all ingredients that you've probably already got in your pantry and in your fridge. So tune in for those. We're going to do the shell tea light candles. We're going to make some DIY bath salts. And we're also going to start putting out every now and again little videos on lifestyle, what we do with the dogs and the kids, and you know, a little bit about us and who we are and what life we're sort of living. So subscribe. Can't wait to see the questions. Keep the comments coming, and I'll do another video answering all your questions. Thanks for tuning in. Bye for now.